someone else will help. How the bystander effect can make you a silent witness. In 1964, a woman was murdered outside her apartment in New York. Even with her screams and several bystanders at the scene, it was not until almost half an hour later that someone contacted the police. This raised an important question. Why didn't anyone help? To find answers, scientists Bib Latanay and John Darley carried out an experiment. In this experiment, participants talked over an intercom system in separate rooms. After a while, participants would hear someone having a seizure over the intercom system. The study found that when a participant was alone in the room, they were more likely to help. However, when there was more than one participant in the room, each person was much less likely to take action. This phenomenon is known as the bystander effect. This happens when individuals in a group feel less responsibility to act because they suppose others will. The more bystanders there are, the less responsible each person feels. Also, people often look at others to decide how to react. If no one else is reacting, people may think no action is needed, leading to a case in which no one helps.
Welcome everyone to English for You. I'm Adam.
And I'm Elsie.
Hey Elsie, have you ever heard of this thing called the bystander effect?
Is that like when people just stand there awkwardly pretending they didn't see anything?
Yeah, I mean pretty much. It's just like that. It's like, oh no, someone needs help. But maybe the next person will do it.
I do that sometimes. So a bunch of people just end up staring at each other, hoping someone else will step in.
Yeah, it's basically a group effort to do nothing.
So teamwork doesn't always make the dream work.
Exactly. And let's check out our article and learn how we can avoid being those types of people. Starting off our article, it says, in 1964, a woman was murdered outside her apartment in New York. There we see the verb murder. It's to unlawfully kill someone with intent. So an example using this word, we could say, the author decided to murder the main character in the book to create a shocking twist in the story.
Murder 这个动词呢是谋杀，那在课文当中用被动 a woman was murdered。那谋杀别人的人，谋杀犯，谋杀者，那你就在 murder 字尾加上 er， 那就是 murderer 好这个名词。那课文说到1964年的时候，一名女性啊在纽约公寓外被谋杀。
Okay, so jumping back, let's see what happens.
Scary.
Yeah. All right. Continuing with our article, it says, even with her screams and several bystanders at the scene, it was not until almost half an hour later that someone contacted the police. There we see the noun scream. Ooh, ah! Scream is a loud, high-pitched cry made due to fear, excitement, or pain. An example sentence we could say, the roller coaster ride was so thrilling that I let out a scream as we went down the first drop. Also, we see in that sentence, contact. Contact is a verb. It is to communicate with someone. An example, we could say, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me by email or phone.
好，我们首先看到的 scream 这个名词是尖叫或是惊呼，当然它也可以当作动词使用。那另外的 bystander 就是旁观者、路人啦，或是局外人。Contact 这个动词是与点点点联系，所以直到将近半小时之后才有人联系警方哦。
Right, so to recap that, let's take a look. I mean, several people, bystanders, were standing by, and nothing was done. It wasn't until almost a half an hour later that anyone contacted the police. That's crazy. And that brings up our question, which the article tells us is, this raised an important question. Why didn't anyone help?
这唤起一个很重要的问题，就是为什么没有人帮助？Half an hour.
Yeah,
that was a long time.
Anyone, if you hear screaming, if it's on the street, and especially in a city like New York.
But would you help if you heard someone scream, like our neighbor?
Good question. If our neighbor screamed, I don't know if I would. And that question should be answered, why? Why would you help or why wouldn't you help? And our article says, to find answers, scientists Bibliotane and John Darley carried out an experiment. There we see carry out something. And what is that? It's to perform or do a task or duty. So an easy way to break this phrase down, we could say, the marketing team will carry out the plan as discussed in the meeting.
Carry out something 就是执行一件事情，后面可以搭配什么样的名词呢？比如说 carry out a mission 执行一项任务， carry out a plan 执行一项计划，或是这里用的 carry out an experiment 也就是执行一项实验。所以为了寻找答案，科学家他们呢就进行了一项实验。
All right, so let's learn about the experiment that was carried out. It says, in this experiment, participants talked over an intercom system in separate rooms.
Participant 这个名词呢是参与者、参加者，动词形式是 participate。Participate in something 那就是参加或是参与某事物。另外我们看到的对讲机英文就是 intercom， 所以在这个实验当中，参与者分别待在不同房间内，透过 intercom 也就是对讲机系统来交谈。
Right, so they're in separate rooms, but they had access to an intercom. Now let's see how the rest of this experiment plays out. It says, after a while, participants would hear someone having a seizure over the intercom system.
Seizure 这个名词就是癫痫等疾病的突然发作，所以在这个房间一段时间之后，参与者就会听到对讲机中传来有人癫痫发作的声音。
Right. So, oh no, maybe, they're having a hard time, they can hear it. So what happens? The result is the study found that when a participant was alone in the room, they were more likely to help.
研究发现呢，当参与者独自一个人在房间里面的时候，他们更有可能提供帮助。
So
interesting.
Yeah, right? If there's only one, maybe more likely to help.
So if you heard our neighbor scream when you were alone at home, then you might help.
Yeah, I might be more likely to help unless, maybe if you were home, maybe I'd say, well, maybe I won't help.
Or say you go take a look.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's continue with the rest of the article and see what happens next. It says, however, when there was more than one participant in the room, each person was much less likely to take action. So there we see the phrase take action, which means to do something in response to a situation or problem. A simple way to use this phrase, we could say, if the problem continues, we need to take action to find a solution.
对，所以课文这边说到呢，然而当房间里面有多于一名参与者的时候，每个人采取行动的可能性则大幅的降低。Take action 这个片语就是采取行动的意思。然后呢，我们就要来看到这样的现象到底是被称作什么呢？
Continuing, it says, this phenomenon is known as the bystander effect or bystander effect.
Phenomenon 这个名词单数指的是现象，复数形字尾要做改变。好，我们会把字尾的 on 拿掉，加上 a 就变成 phenomena。这样的现象被称为旁观者效应。
Okay, so like we were talking about earlier, if there's one person, you're more likely to help. If there's more, then you might not want to help. And that's where the word bystander comes from, because people are just standing around and maybe having a discussion, and maybe other things are on their mind. Maybe they don't feel responsible. Now, our article jumps back and tells us this happens when individuals in a group feel less responsibility to act because they suppose others will. Okay, so in that sentence, we see the noun responsibility, and that is the duty or obligation to take care of something or someone. An example would be taking care of a pet is a big responsibility that requires time and attention. And then we see the responsible word, which is an adjective, and that is being accountable for something or having a duty to take care of something. Now, using the word responsible, we could say, he is very responsible. He always makes sure his homework is done on time.
好，所以我们首先看到的名词责任是 responsibility， 形容词则是 responsible， 代表应承担责任的或是需负责的。那 be responsible for something， 那就是对某事负责。那另外呢，我们还看到了这个动词 suppose， what does it mean?
Suppose is a verb. It is to think or believe that something is true or possible based on what you know. An example using this word, we could say, I suppose we can go to the park if the weather is nice this weekend.
Suppose 是猜想、假设或是推测。那有一个很常见、很常听到的句子是 I suppose so， 这一句在说的就是我猜想，也是如此。那另外呢 be supposed to 后面加上原形动词，代表应该点点点，这样的一个用法也很常见。比如说呢 He's supposed to get here by 6. I wonder where he is. 他应该要6点抵达这边啊，但是怎么还没有出现呢？我纳闷他到底在哪边。所以回到课文里面来，这边说到的是，当个体身在一群人当中的时候，感受到需要采取行动的责任就比较低，因为人们会假设其他人也会有所行动。
Getting back to our article, everyone, it says, the more bystanders there are, the less responsible each person feels.
旁观者越多，每个人感受到的责任就会越小。This is very true.
Kind of, yeah. It also continues by saying, also people often look at others to decide how to react. There we see the word react. That's a verb. It's to respond to something, often in an emotional way. So an example we would use would be, she didn't know how to react when she heard the surprising news about her friend. And then we see the noun reaction, which is the way someone responds to something. An example we could say is, his reaction to the surprise party was one of shock and happiness.
React 这个动词是反应，那名词形式就是 reaction。课文说，此外人们通常会观察他人，以决定如何反应。So people will look at each other first, and then decide what to do.
Right, and maybe some will react and maybe some won't react. And it says, if no one else is reacting, people may think no action is needed, leading to a case in which no one helps.
如果没有人有任何反应，那人们就会可能认为说，是不是不需要采取任何行动，导致最后是没有人伸出援手的这个情况。那这边我们看到了今天的 Language in Focus. Let's take a look. 今天的 Language in Focus 我们要讲到的是以介系词加关系代名词的合并句子。当两个句子中提及同样事物的时间或是地点的时候，可以保留原先句中所使用的介系词，将第二次出现的同样事物用 which 替代，使用介系词加上 which 的句型来合并两句。比如说课文里面的句子 If no one else is reacting, people may think no action is needed, leading to a case. 这边就句点了。另外一句是 No one helps in a case. 那这两句呢，我们都用到了同一个事物，就是 a case 这个名词。那如果要合并两句的话，我们则用 which 代替第二次出现的 a case, which 前方则接上原本使用的介系词 in， 那就会变成我们课文当中所看到的那一句话了。那再来，在某些情况下，介系词加关系代名词 which 可以用来表示时间的关系副词 when， 或是表示地点的关系副词 where. For example, September is the month when students need to go back to school. 这句也可以是 September is the month in which students need to go back to school. 好啦，那今天第1集的课文就到这边结束咯。喜欢今天的节目吗？赶快按赞，追踪我们的 YouTube channel， 还有 Facebook， 不要忘记开启小铃铛，掌握第一手的英文学习内容哦。
Well, I think this article was quite an intrigue so far because it does affect how people react and our everyday life to different situations, which now everyone brings us to our For You chat question. It says, do you think the bystander effect might be more common in certain cultures or countries? Explain your answers.
I think it might be more common in really busy cities where everyone's used to minding their own business.
Right, like, don't bother me,
Yeah,
something like that.
in New York
Or
even in Taipei, people are always rushing around, so maybe they assume someone else will help.
Right, yeah. If you're constantly busy and everything's just rushing around like you said, people mind their own business. That makes sense. And what about places that are, like super polite, like Japan? Maybe they don't want to interfere or make anyone feel uncomfortable by stepping in and asking a question. So, it's like they're being polite by doing nothing. So those are maybe some two different kinds of places or countries that, and cultures that might be affected by the bystander effect. Now, what do you guys think? Think about it in Taipei or Taiwan or different countries like in America, Canada, or wherever you're from. That's all the time we have for today. My name is Adam.
I'm Elsie.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Vocabulary Review. Murder. The police discovered that the dead woman was murdered by a man who attacked her last night. Scream. Lisa let out a scream when she saw a huge cockroach in her bedroom. Contact. Phil contacted his boss to say he was sick and wouldn't come in to work. Responsibility. Being a parent is probably one of the biggest responsibilities a person could have. Suppose. The train is 15 minutes late, so I suppose we won't get to Tainan on time. React. When the fire alarm rang, everyone reacted quickly by lining up and moving toward the nearest exit.
智慧小补帖
Bystander. Participant. Participant. Intercom. Seizure. Phenomenon.